Hello and welcome. Today we're going to break down a crucial topic in Philippine law, Rule 64 of the Rules of Court. This rule governs the review of judgments and final orders from two very important bodies, the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, and the Commission on Audit, or COA. By the end of this video, you will be able to first, understand the scope and mode of review under Rule 64. Second, identify the key requirements for filing a petition. And third, recognize the common pitfalls that can lead to a petition's dismissal. We'll also provide some practical tips and memory aids to help you master this rule, especially if you're preparing for the bar exam. Let's get started. First, let's establish the foundation. What is the scope of Rule 64? Section 1 clearly states that this rule governs the review of judgments and final orders or resolutions of the Commission on Elections and the Commission on Audit. This means it applies exclusively to these two constitutional commissions. Now, how is this review conducted? Section 2 tells us the mode of review. It says that a judgment or final order from COMELEC or COA may be brought to the Supreme Court on certiorari under Rule 65. This is a critical point. The mode of review is a special civil action for certiorari. So what does that mean? It means the Supreme Court is not retrying the case. It's not reviewing the facts. It's reviewing whether the Commission acted with grave abuse of discretion. This is a key concept. Certiorari is about jurisdiction, not about the merits of the case. The Supreme Court is asking, did the Commission act outside its authority, or in a manner so arbitrary and capricious that it amounts to a lack of jurisdiction? This is a very high bar to meet. It's not enough to say the Commission made a mistake. You must prove they acted with grave abuse of discretion. Now, let's talk about the most common pitfall, the time limit for filing. This is covered in Section 3. The rule is clear. The petition must be filed within 30 days from notice of the judgment or final order. This 30-day period is jurisdictional, meaning if you miss it, the Supreme Court has no power to hear your case. However, there's an important exception. What if you file a motion for reconsideration with the Commission first? The rule states that filing a motion for new trial or reconsideration, if allowed by the Commission's rules, will interrupt the 30-day period. This is a crucial safety net. Let's visualize this with a timeline. Imagine you receive notice of a COMELEC resolution on day 0. You have 30 days to file your petition. On day 10, you file a motion for reconsideration. The 30-day clock stops. Let's say the Commission denies your motion on day 20. The clock restarts. You now have the remaining 20 days to file your petition with the Supreme Court. But there's a catch. The rule adds a minimum period. If the motion is denied, you must file the petition within the remaining period, but in no case shall it be less than 5 days. This means, even if you only had 1 day left when you filed your motion, you get a fresh 5 days from the denial to file your petition. This is a common source of error. Always calculate your deadlines carefully. A simple acrostic to remember this is TIDE, T for 30 days, I for interrupts, D for denied, and E for exception of 5 days. Remember TIDE to navigate the time limits. Next, let's look at the financial and formal requirements. Section 4 and 5 are your guides here. Section 4 is straightforward. When you file your petition, you must pay the docket and other lawful fees and deposit 500 pesos for costs. This is a mandatory requirement. Section 5 is where the bulk of the formal requirements lie. Let's break it down. First, the petition must be verified and filed in 18 legible copies. Verification means you swear under oath that the contents are true. 18 copies is a lot, so plan ahead. Second, the petition must name the correct parties. You, the aggrieved party, are the petitioner. The respondents are the commission that issued the judgment, and any person interested in sustaining that judgment. For example, if COMELEC ruled in favor of Candidate A would be a respondent along with COMELEC. Third, the petition's content must be precise. It must state the facts clearly, present the issues involved, set forth the grounds for review, and pray for the judgment to be annulled or modified. Remember, the ground for review is grave abuse of discretion. Fourth, the petition must be accompanied by specific documents. You need a duplicate, original, or certified true copy of the judgment you're challenging, certified true copies of any material portions of the record you refer to, and plain copies of all documents for the other 17 copies. Fifth, you must include 2 crucial certifications. You need to state the specific material dates to prove you filed on time, and you need a sworn certification against forum shopping. Forum shopping is the act of filing the same case in different courts to get a favorable ruling, and it's strictly prohibited. Finally, you must prove you served a copy of the petition on the commission and the adverse party, and that you paid the fees. Proof of service and payment are not optional. They are mandatory attachments. The last paragraph of Section 5 is a warning. It says that failure to comply with any of these requirements is sufficient ground for the dismissal of the petition. This is why attention to detail is paramount. A simple mistake can cost you the case. Let's move on to what happens after you file. This is covered in Section 6 and 7. Section 6 describes the Supreme Court's initial review. If the court finds your petition sufficient in form and substance, it will order the respondents to file their comments within 10 days. However, the court has the power to dismiss the petition outright at this stage. It can do so if the petition is insufficient in form or substance, if it was filed manifestly for delay, or if the questions raised are too unsubstantial to warrant further proceedings. This is another reason why your petition must be well crafted and raise a genuine issue of grave abuse of discretion. If the court orders comments, Section 7 outlines the respondents' obligations. The respondents must file 18 legible copies of their comments within the 10-day period. Their comments must also be accompanied by certified true copies of any material portions of the record they refer to, and they must serve a copy on the petitioner. A key takeaway from Section 7 is the last sentence. It states that no other pleading may be filed by any party unless required or allowed by the court. This means the process is generally limited to the petition and the comments. You can't just keep filing motions or replies unless the court specifically asks for them. Let's discuss two more important sections, Section 8 on the effect of filing, and Section 9 on submission for decision. Section 8 addresses a common misconception. Filing a petition for certiorari does not automatically stop the execution of the judgment you're challenging. The judgment remains enforceable. So if Comelec declared your opponent the winner, they can assume office even while your petition is pending. If COA ordered you to return funds, you are still obligated to do so. The only way to stop the execution is if the Supreme Court issues a temporary restraining order, or TRO, or a writ of preliminary injunction. The rule says the Supreme Court must direct otherwise upon such terms as it may deem just. This means you must specifically ask the court for a TRO or injunction, and the court has the discretion to grant it, usually after the respondents have filed their comments. Finally, Section 9 tells us when the case is ready for the court to decide. Unless the court sets the case for oral argument or requires the parties to submit memoranda, the case is deemed submitted for decision upon the filing of the comments. This means once the respondents file their comments, the court can proceed to deliberate and issue a decision. This is the final stage before the Supreme Court issues its ruling, either dismissing the petition or granting it, and annulling or modifying the Commission's judgment. Let's put this all together with a hypothetical scenario. Imagine you are a lawyer representing a candidate, Mr. Cruz, who lost a local election. Comelec has just issued a resolution declaring your opponent, Ms. Reyes, the winner. You believe Comelec committed grave abuse of discretion by ignoring crucial evidence of vote buying. What are your steps? First, you receive the Comelec resolution. You have 30 days to act. You decide to file a motion for reconsideration with Comelec on day 15. This interrupts the 30-day period. Comelec denies your motion on day 25. The clock restarts. You had 15 days left, but the 5-day minimum applies, so you now have 5 days from day 25 to file your petition with the Supreme Court. Your deadline is day 30. On day 29, you file your petition. You ensure it's verified, and 18 copies, names Comelec and Ms. Reyes as respondents, clearly states the grave abuse of discretion and includes all the required attachments and certifications. You also pay the fees. You also file a separate motion for a TRO to prevent Ms. Reyes from taking office while the case is pending. The Supreme Court reviews your petition. If it finds it sufficient, it orders Comelec and Ms. Reyes to comment within 10 days. Once their comments are filed, the case is submitted for decision. Let's recap the key takeaways and some final bar exam tips. First, remember the scope. Rule 64 is only for Comelec and COA. Second, the mode of review is certiorari, which means you must prove grave abuse of discretion. Third, the 30-day time limit is jurisdictional, but a motion for reconsideration can interrupt it, with a 5-day minimum. Fourth, strict compliance with the formal requirements is essential to avoid dismissal. And fifth, filing the petition does not automatically stay the execution of the judgment. For the bar exam, here are some tips. First, memorize the 30-day period and the 5-day minimum. This is a favorite question. Second, understand the difference between certiorari and appeal. Certiorari is about jurisdiction, appeal is about errors of law or fact. Third, be able to list the key formal requirements from Section 5. And fourth, remember that the Supreme Court does not review findings of fact supported by substantial evidence. By understanding these principles and practicing with scenarios, you'll be well prepared to tackle any question on Rule 64. Thank you for watching. I hope this video has clarified the process of reviewing judgments from COMELEC and COA. Good luck with your studies.